Greetings to all of you, and many thanks for inviting me to speak to you and pray with you this evening. And I hope you're all doing well, despite the lockdown and everything. My name is Father Thomas Kleinschmidt. It's a very German name, and that's because my great-grandparents emigrated from Germany to the United States. So as you can hear from my accent, I am a US American citizen. So please forgive my poor English. So I'm a third generation American. My parents, you know how it all starts with parents, right? And God's wonderful grace. My parents were both Lutheran before they met. And just before they met, they were searching, and they got closer and closer to the Catholic Church and were already taking classes to enter the Catholic Church when they met. So they became Catholic. And as you know, when you make such a big decision in your adult life, you do it with great conviction. You do it because you're convinced. You have reflected on that well. And so they really practiced their faith. They took it seriously. And so I owe so much to my parents. My mother died 3 years ago. My father's still alive. He's 89 years old. But I want to say I owe so much to my parents. My parents had 9 children. I am the oldest boy in the family. There are 2 other brothers, and I have 6 sisters. So I used to joke with them. I would say, you are the quantity, we are the quality. But actually, it's the other way around. They're great sisters. So it was amazing to be in this beautiful family. We used to pray the Family Rosary, as we're going to do tonight, every day. It meant so much to us. My parents were very moved by the Fatima message. Now remember, this is back I was born in 1961, and they got to know about the Fatima message, I think it was in 1971, and they really took it to heart. And so, yeah, I owe so much to their example, as do my other brothers and sisters. I have a brother who's also a priest, a diocesan priest in the United States. And I have a sister who's a Carmelite nun in the United States. So she is what we call my Irish twin. Maybe you've heard of that expression. If a sibling is born within 11 months of another sibling, in the US we call that an Irish twin. But anyway, she has been so good to me. She's been praying for me all these years. She entered in 1979, and that was the very same year that I entered the Oblates of the Virgin Mary. So I have been with this beautiful community over 40 years now, right? If my math is correct. So it should be 41 years. So I entered the Oblates of the Virgin Mary, and I owe that very much to a pilgrimage I made to Fatima with a group of 100 other young men from the United States. That was back in July of 1977. So my parents offered to pay for this pilgrimage, and there was a very holy priest who was guiding that pilgrimage, and he invited us to consecrate ourselves to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, write our own prayer of consecration that we then put at the pedestal of the Our Lady of Fatima statue in the Cova di Ria. And it was at that moment when I was putting that little note, that prayer into the pedestal that Our Lady made it very clear to me and called to be a priest. So I was 16 years old at the time, and that conviction has been with me since that day. So I owe so much to that grace. I didn't know where to go. I was first thinking of diocesan priesthood, but it was a difficult time in the church. There was a lot of confusion, as you know, in the 70s, a lot of experimentation, and it was hard to find a good seminary. So I started looking for a religious community, and I eventually found the Oblates of the Virgin Mary, but not by chance. I just kept meeting oblates, literally. I would bump into them somehow. And I was reading there the signs of God's divine providence. I looked into the oblates, and then I finally decided to join after getting some information from them. So I entered in 1979, and then I went to Rome in 1981. I did all my studies in philosophy and theology in Rome. So it was very beautiful to be there in the 80s. That's when Pope John Paul II was still young and vibrant and energetic, as many of you remember. And he was really the Pope I grew up with. And what an amazing example to have of a pastor, a shepherd, that father figure, you know. And I was able to meet him quite a few times in Rome. It's very easy. And I also met Mother Teresa of Calcutta quite a few times in those years in Rome. It was very easy to approach Mother Teresa, very easy. Any of you could have done it. She would have greeted you very happily. But it was amazing to have met her as well. All those things kind of, you know, I hold on to them as tremendous graces that helped form me in my vocation. I was ordained on July 3rd, 1988. So I'm celebrating, 32 years of priesthood this year, next month. And I was also happy that it was on my patron saint's feast day, St. Thomas the Apostle. So I finished my studies in Rome. I went on to do a licentiate, and then I did help out in one of our parishes for 1 year, parlo anche italiano, and it was beautiful to be in Italy all those years. And then they asked me to go to Austria. We had 2 communities in Austria. So I went to Vienna, the very beautiful city, and I ended up staying in Austria for a total of, 25 years. I served both in Vienna and also in a very big Marian shrine dedicated to Our Lady of Loreto, just to the south of Vienna. We were getting about 200,000 pilgrims a year. So this is a beautiful place to be. And we had, beautiful parish life, but also the service to the pilgrims. In 2006, I was asked to help out in our mission in the Philippines. So I spent 4 years in the Philippines, giving Ignatian retreats on quite a few of the 7,000 islands they have. So that was a beautiful experience. Then I was asked to come back to help in Austria. They needed some manpower and someone who could speak German again. So I was ready to come back. And through my ministry of giving retreats, I met Bishop Philip Egan, back in 2012. He heard of our charism in directing Ignatian retreats, and he asked to come to our place in Austria to do a retreat with me. So I did that for him. He came a second time. I directed his retreat. And then he started sending a lot of his priests and seminarians to me. And then that's how the connection with the Portsmouth Diocese grew. And then speaking with the bishop, we discerned we would like to come to England if he has a place for us. So he was very happy to receive us. So we came to England last September, and we're here at St. Boniface Church in Southampton. And so that's pretty much my vocational journey, where I have lived, where I've served, and how I got here.
A long story, really. I didn't know about the Philippines.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know. And now, what are you actually doing in San Boniface? What's your ministry there?
Yes, I'm the parish priest, and I have two brothers with me from Nigeria, Father John and Father Emmanuel. And so we are obviously doing our parish ministry here in a very beautiful parish, very active and lively. So it's a blessing to be here. Apart from the parish ministry, we also do hospital ministry in General Hospital in Southampton. So we're on call. I believe it is. It was 3. I think it's 4 days a week now. So 24/7, we're on call. So sometimes we do get up in the middle of the night, and as is needed. And in addition to that, I also give retreats, Ignatian retreats. So upon invitation, many of these retreats are abroad. So there are many communities I've come to know over the years, and they asked me to give them an 8-day retreat. I'm great friends with the Missionaries of Charity and other institutes. So it's very common for me to be traveling once a month for a week retreat. And also I give retreats locally. So.
Okay.
It's a tremendous grace. We're celebrating the feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, right? We're already in the Vespers, the Vigil of the feast. And my message is always very simple. Get close to Jesus. Jesus loves each one of us infinitely. We cannot fathom or imagine the depths of his love and mercy for each one of us. And we have to discover that. We have to get close to Jesus. We have to not be afraid to just go to him as we are and open up to his love and his mercy. And so I always say the first thing we should do, even if things were normal, but even now in the lockdown, we should trust in the love and mercy of God and know that he's carrying out his plan in a beautiful way in each person. But we have to be open to his plan. And that means trusting he's getting us through this, trusting in his love and mercy, and also thanking him. One thing we do not do enough is to thank God for the many graces we have. We have to count our blessings. We would be more joyful, much happier, much more at peace if we would just start to count our blessings each day. And I'm talking about the tiniest details of each day. You don't have to be looking for God in big things. God is very humble, very quiet. He came in a little stable in Bethlehem, That's the way he comes to us. Very humble, very simple, very quiet. That's where you have to look for him. So look for Jesus, his love, his mercy in the little things of each day. Be attentive to the details, and you'll start to discover the amazing love of God for you, really. Yes, I would suggest what the saints suggest, and I'm thinking in particular of St. Ignatius of Loyola right now, but many saints do say this. St. Ignatius would begin his prayer like this. He would pause, and he would become aware of God's presence and how God is looking at him with great love and mercy. So it's this becoming aware that you are in God's presence. You have to recollect yourself to kind of focus on God's love and presence right here and now, where you are praying. You don't have to feel his presence. It's a certainty of faith. God is with you. And all you have to do is become aware of his looking at you. Remember the famous story of the Curie of Ars? There was that peasant farmer who used to go to the parish church and pray between his work. So sometimes you would spend an hour or 2 hours in the church, and the Curie of Ars, parish priest, went up to him and said, yeah, how do you pray? What do you do when you pray? And he said, I look at him, Jesus in the tabernacle, and he looks at me. It's that simple. Prayer is that simple. I look at him, he looks at me. And then it's in that gaze where you know that God is looking at you, that you start to listen to him. It doesn't mean you're going to hear words. Sometimes, lights, inspirations come, but God is just already speaking through his presence, looking at you. So just be silent and listen. Don't start saying, God, I need this, I need that, bless this person, bless that person. You can do that also, but the first step of prayer is becoming totally aware of God looking at you, and then listening. Speak, O Lord, for your servant is listening. Remember how Samuel learned to pray? That's the key of prayer. And keep it simple. Prayer is not complicated.